Chapter 1. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land. Yi Anzhi saw Wei Ran again 10 years after they were separated. There was a family planning sign hanging in the corridor of the hospital. Yi Anzhi walked out of the corner department with difficulty with a few sheets in his hand. When she looked up, she thought she was dreaming. The face she had been obsessed with for 14 years suddenly appeared in front of her eyes. She raised the corners of her mouth helplessly, and the pain in her lower abdomen seemed insignificant at the moment. If she could draw this face on paper with her eyes closed, but it's a pity that she can't. On the contrary, Wei Ran is an excellent drawer. The hospital corridor was noisy with words. The nurse ran past Yi Anzhi with a list in hand. In the narrow corridor, she bumped into Yi Anzhi, who was wearing slender 12 centimeters high heels. Yi Anzhi, who was already swaying, threw himself forward with weak legs. Yi Anzhi's first thought was, "What on earth have I done? I wasn't embarrassed enough in the past 14 years, and now he makes me embarrassed in front of him." The expected pain did not come, but instead she threw herself into a broad embrace. Wei Ran, who was standing a few meters away, was holding her tightly in his arms. The scorching temperature in the embrace caught her off guard. Yi Anzhi tried hard to break free and tried to escape from the arm that was about to burn her, but it was in vain. The man was stunned for a few seconds, then calmly relaxed his arms. Only then did Yi Anzhi raise his head and look at the man in front of him carefully. The casual Armani, who was dressed in casual clothes, didn't need to look too much to know that they were expensive. A pair of Nike casual sneakers generally cost tens of thousands of dollars in the market, and they are now extremely expensive. The man's hair is trimmed meticulously, and his thick eyebrows make his eyes deeper. If not having known him since childhood, Yi Anzhi thought he was from an ethnic minority. Although he was over 30, he was not as fat as the beer-bellied bosses and colleagues around him. He was probably just like the male protagonist described in the novel secretly hidden under the desk in the junior high school class. Words such as elegant, handsome, and handsome boy seemed inferior to him when used to describe him. She thought to herself, it would be great if God favored women like Wei Ran. Yi Anzhi, long time no see. Wei Ran's voice was still the same as before, but a little more mature than before. Sorry, I borrowed it. There was a hint of stiffness in Yi Anzhi's voice. Yes, as the saying goes, distant relatives are not as good as close neighbors. The two childhood sweethearts had not seen each other for more than 10 years, but now that they met, Yi Anzhi was not happy at all. Yi Anzhi was holding onto the wall alone and covering his lower abdomen with one hand as he struggled to walk. Wei Ran saw this from behind, strode forward, picked up Yi Anzhi, and walked quickly to the elevator. Yi Anzhi was already dripping with sweat from the pain. Although Xian Kong was frightened by the sudden attack, he was already unable to resist. After seeing the person clearly, Yi Anzhi said weakly, "Wei Ran, please let me down." He struggled feebly in Wei Ran's arms. The man's strong arms hugged the woman's lower back, preventing the woman from breaking free. "What's wrong with you?" After the man got off the elevator, he put the woman in the passenger seat, closed the door carefully, and sat back in his driver's seat. "You see, gynecologist, I just had an abortion. That bastard didn't come with me because he was embarrassed. I did the whole process myself, but I was lucky enough to meet a free driver. I am quite self-aware now. I didn't deserve your people before, and I don't deserve your car now. Let's go first without sending him off." Yi Anzhi reached out to open the passenger door and get out of the car. Wei Ran stretched out her hand to stop the car, and the car door closed with a loud bang. Yi Anzhi was afraid, but pretended to be, "I am not afraid of anything." Wei Ran put the seat belt on the woman and drove away. "Where do you live? I'll take you there." There was no room for refutation. Qinglu Garden. After Yi Anzhi said this, he turned and looked out the window, but there was no emotion or edge in his eyes. As Yi Anzhi fell into memories, his childhood self and Wei Ran seemed to be right in front of him. At that time, Wei Ran's mother took him to the door opposite her house alone. From then on, she chased after little Wei Ran and called Brother Wei Ran. It's just that the person in front has never stopped to wait for her since she was a child. His expression is expressionless. Thinking of this, Yeonji pursed his lips and his eyes drooped as he recalled the past. It was obviously a past that he couldn't bear to look back on, so why was it so unforgettable? How have you been these past years? Wei Rant's words broke the calm. Yeonji lowered his head, his thick eyelashes trembling slightly, like butterfly feathers under his eyelids. As you can see, I have a boyfriend who loves me very much. The abortion operation was also very successful. Everything is going very well. You don't need to worry about it. Wei Ran seemed to be concentrating on driving, but his brows were furrowed, and his eyes showed no emotion. When did Yeonji start talking in a weird way? Abortion requires the signature of the family members. The hospital will not perform the operation if no one signs. This is common sense. The lie was revealed in one word, and Yeonji did not say a word until he arrived at the destination. He got out of the car calmly, regardless of whether the people behind him were following him. When he reached the unit door downstairs, he took out the key card from his bag and swiped the card to enter. It was not until he reached the 8th floor that Yeonji unlocked the door with his fingerprint and locked the man out. Then he sat at the door and curled up in a ball. Yeonji buried his head deeply in his knees until he made a muffled sound before taking out his mobile phone from his bag and making a call. Nanxiang, my aunt is here and is sick again. You can bring me some medicine after get off work. Yeonji retched due to abdominal pain. Didn't you go to the hospital today? Why didn't you get an injection or medicine? Nanchang paused while turning over the report. I met Wei Ran in the hospital. This stupid guy hugged me and got into the car. I really didn't want to tangle with him. It's a pity that I paid him the money and asked him to force me to take him home. As expected, nothing happened to me if I met him. Yeonji said as he shook off the high heels from his feet. The sweat stains on his forehead stuck to his hair, which made him feel particularly uncomfortable. He turned on the speakerphone and went to the bathroom to wash his face. Nanchang, who was on the other side of the phone, closed the report he had just read with such force that the intern next to him, who came to deliver the report, was so frightened that his shoulders shook 3 times. Fuck, just wait. I'll go over there now. Don't let me meet him, or I'll have to beat him up. Nanchang hung up the phone, grabbed her bag, and rushed to the underground parking lot with a look on her face that said someone owed her 2,500,000 to 80,000 yuan. After washing his face, Yeonji struggled to move to the sofa, lying down and curled up like a shrimp. When he turned over, he fell to the carpet. Her eyes were filled with mist, and she blinked slightly. Tears stuck to her eyelashes, blocking her sight. Then the tears mixed with sweat flowed to her hair. Maybe it's the tear glands stimulated by pain. Yeonji comforted himself and then started to cry. After a while, he was sobbing until he was out of breath. After Wei Ran went downstairs, he pretended to be calm and sat in the car. The moment he saw Yeonji, his longing for him turned into an outpouring of emotion. He tried hard to suppress the joy in his heart. His eyes gradually showed light, and the corners of his mouth could not help but rise. After hesitating for a moment, Wei Ran took out his mobile phone and dialed his assistant's number. Check if Yeonji is the owner in Building 22, Qinglu Garden 801, and check if it is for sale in 802. A cunning thought flashed through Wei Ran's mind. Yes, boss. The assistant was surprised when the boss didn't hang up the phone. This was not the boss's style. He usually hung up immediately after giving instructions. Check Yeonji's marital status, and Wei Ran paused at this point. The excitement really overshadowed his reason, and he was so nervous that he didn't dare to say anything. That's it for now. Once you've checked it, send it to me via WeChat. Then he hung up the phone. What if Yeonji now has her own life and someone to accompany her? The assistant on the other end of the phone was confused. Is her boss an iron tree blooming? He actually asked her to check out a woman. After Wei Ran hung up the phone, she lowered her eyes and sat blankly in her seat, unable to tell what she was thinking about. Within a moment, Wei Ran raised her head and drove away. When he was a child, he was called a child without a father. He remembered that Anzhi, who was half a head shorter than him, rushed out and grabbed his hair from behind and refused to let go. When he grew up and was called an alien, he remembered that the thin Anzhi was carrying bricks. He smashed his head on someone's glass. Later, when he was blocked in a corner by 3 or 5 teenagers because he refused a girl's confession and was unable to resist, Anzhi went up to them and started to fight with them without fear. Later, he went to a Sanda martial arts school because he had never been beaten before. Anzhi once protected him for no reason, but now what is he struggling with? Just be by her side and not care about getting anything like she once did. Chapter 2, he is Zed. Nan Chong brought the doctor to Anzhi's residence. After unlocking the door with his fingerprint, he pushed the door in. After looking at the woman huddled on the carpet, he went to help the woman up without having time to change her shoes. Seeing the tears in the corners of the woman's eyes and her red eyes, Nan Chong knew that she would not be able to survive. Nan Chong remembered that this woman rarely cried anymore. Nan Chong, it hurts so much. Anzhi didn't know whether it was a pain in his stomach or a pain in his heart. He could only grab Nan Chong's clothes hard, as if grasping the last straw. Jiang Xingchen, come here and see her. Nan Chong held the woman in his arms, his expression heavy and his brows furrowed. Jiang Xingchen picked up the woman and laid her flat on the sofa. He did a series of related examinations, took out the syringe and medicine from the medicine box, adjusted it, and gave the woman an injection in her arm. After a while, the woman fell asleep. Jiang Xingchen, why is she in such pain this time? This has never happened before. Nan Chong gave Jiang Xingchen a glass of water, and the two of them sat at the kitchen bar counter. As I said before, her physical condition is no longer suitable for this kind of high-intensity work. She drinks too much and is greedy for cold drinks. She needs to change her habits. Her diet is irregular, and the weather has been getting colder and colder recently due to the change of seasons. She still wears so little. In addition, this time it may be this kind of pain is caused by being too excited and nervous. Jiang Xingchen explained the causes of the disease and then said after a long pause, my teacher said during the diagnosis and treatment before that it would be difficult for her to recover, even if she did not consider having children, so she must follow the doctor's instructions every day. Nan Chong looked distressed. There was nothing she could do about this stubborn woman. I understand. She said she didn't have time to get medicine from the hospital today, so she kept a week's worth of medicine. If anything happens, call her. You can leave first. After Jiang Xingchen left, Nan Chong sat on the sofa, looking at the usually strong woman lying on the sofa, feeling bitter in her heart. She recalled the girl who used to have a ponytail. The girl who laughed every day at that time rarely smiled sincerely after that incident. She had learned how to fake smiles in the mall for so many years, but everything no longer came from the heart. Even she couldn't tell when Anzhi was the real Anzhi. When Nan Chong was in school, she was a lone student from Beijing. Her parents were not around, and the old man had no way to discipline her, which resulted in her careless character. Due to her financial freedom and free time, she had a bad temper and only had one friend since she was a child. The bell rang for the end of get out of class, and a girl in the same class passed by Nan Chong, holding something pink in her hand. Nan Chong could see what was in the girl's hand at a glance. She was running and pulling her clothes and walking like a penguin, but she could still clearly see the stains on the girl's pants. Every time in high school, she looked like a penguin. There were annoying boys in every class who would say things that would embarrass girls. Nan Chong and his only friend Bai Shui followed her to the toilet. They waited at the door of the toilet for the girl to wash her hands before they came out and grabbed her. Only then did the girl realize that tears of embarrassment were rolling in her eyes. Nan Chong believed at that time that there really were girls who could cry instantly. Nan Chong took his hand out of his pocket, threw the coat hanging on his shoulder to the girl, turned around, and left in one go. His posture was like a supreme treasure riding on colorful, auspicious clouds. Seeing the little girl, Anzhi's eyes turned into gratitude. Anzhi wiped his tears and laughed, clumsily wrapped the clothes around his waist, and slowly returned to the classroom. Yeonji woke up slowly while lying on the sofa. From the corner of his eye, he saw Nan Chang sitting next to him. There was no light in the room, and he could only see the outline of the person with the help of the light from the resident opposite. Nan Chang, he's back. Yeonji maintained the same posture and did not move. I know. Nan Chang opened Matewan and ordered a bowl of porridge. Nan Chang, the man who occupied my entire youth. The woman's voice gradually choked up. He is a disaster to me after all. So then, what do you want? To fly into a flame? To make the same mistakes again? Nan Chang asked instead without trying to interfere. As he once said, we are not the same kind of people. Yeonji spoke weakly. Nan Chang stood up and took out a bag of instant noodles and other instant products from the kitchen. After emptying out all the coffee and beer from the refrigerator, he walked out of the kitchen with the bag and said, Zhang Xingqian said you should control your drinking and not catch cold anymore. You can have porridge 3 times a day, but you can't open it. The air conditioner has cooled down now, and the weather is not hot. Don't leave the air conditioner on from morning to night. I took these and ordered the porridge for you. You can drink it by yourself. Bai Shui is getting engaged next month. Don't forget to ask us to try on the bridesmaid's dress when we are free. Call us then. After saying that, Nan Chang opened the door and left with a bag of food and drinks without responding to the person Yeonji mentioned, because Nan Chang knew in her heart that no matter how hard she talked, she could not change Yeonji's deep love for him. Nan Chang turned on a heating lamp in the room. Yeonji reached for the cigarette and lighter placed on the coffee table, put the cigarette between his fingers and lit it. Smoke instantly filled the room under the heating lamp, and the woman's skillful puffing of smoke became more pleasing to the eye. Yeonji had forgotten how she learned to smoke, and she also forgot when she was so good at drinking. Yeonji said to himself, it's over, no more worries. The phone buzzed on the carpet. Yeonji picked it up. It was her boss. Hey, boss, what's your order? Yeonji's voice was slightly hoarse. Anzhi, let's hand over the projects you were responsible for before to others. Now there is a good project that only you can do. Yeonji didn't believe that her boss would be so kind and hand over a good project to her. Boss, our team's project has entered the final stage now. It will take another half a month at most. It is impossible for me to hand it over to others at this time. Otherwise, you should give it to others first for new projects. Yeonji was sure that this was not a good thing. Then let your team do it first. After you check and accept the results, you will report to me. I will make an appointment in the next few days to take you to have dinner with the person in charge of the new project. You will be fully responsible for the new project. I guarantee that you will be given a holiday after the order is completed. After Mr. Wu finished speaking, he quickly hung up the phone. Did he have the nerve to talk about vacation? Hanging up the phone so quickly seems like a guilty conscience. Yeonji directly entered a well-known art studio in China after graduation. From the beginning, she was only responsible for explaining the sale of paintings in ordinary galleries. After outstanding performance, she was promoted to the project team by the business manager. Within a year of being in the project team, she was able to lead the team alone because of her outstanding ability. After leading the team alone, her business ability continued to rank first in the company. She was later promoted to manager. However, she always led the team to collaborate on every task. Sometimes she would work alone to win the project. However, each time the bonus would be used as a bonus for the entire project team. People who followed her admired her courage. After hanging up the phone, Yeonji sat up from the sofa, opened the window, and looked out the window. The evening breeze blew in his face, bringing with it a hint of refreshing. There were people running downstairs in 2s and 3s wearing headphones at night, couples taking their children for a walk, and young lovers walking hand in hand on the road, whispering to each other and covering their faces with smiles. This is very different from the situation when I climbed up the window and looked downstairs when I was a child. When I was a child, I usually saw 3 or 5 aunts sitting around chatting together, and a few uncles playing chess under the shade of a tree. Yeonji was stunned for a moment when he heard the knock on the door, and then he remembered that it was the takeaway from Nankyangding. After seeing the person coming through the peephole, he opened the door. Anzhi was sitting alone in the living room, not watching TV or looking at her mobile phone. The room was so quiet that she could only hear the sound of herself drinking porridge. The phone rang again. Sue, what's wrong? Anzhi continued to put porridge in his mouth. Boss, Tauzi just said that in the morning, the second group manager asked us to transfer the projects we are currently docking to them. She said that Boss Wu asked for it. It is probably because we have been unable to contact you today, so she asked me to give it to her directly. Boss Wu has already told me about this. There is a project he will give me to do next, so you finish the list first and leave it to you to complete independently. If you don't understand anything, you can ask me. If the second group manager has something to ask her to come to me, you don't need to worry about her. No wonder after Sue said this, he understood. It turned out that he was tripped. Even so, there is no need to be so anxious. Don't you know that you can't eat hot tofu in a hurry? Boss, our team currently has limited manpower. The Human Resources Department made an excuse that they couldn't recruit people, but every time someone came, the second team said they were short of people and snatched them away first. Our team hasn't had a new member for a long time. Su Yi's complaint was true. The second team was robbing people, but couldn't keep anyone. It was clear that Anzhi didn't have enough people to give out the excess, so they could just sit back and wait for a piece of the pie. In this way, you do your best first, and I'll see if I can delay some time with Gray Studio. Boss Wu means that if the current order affects the next order, the current one must be handed over first, but the current project is just on the verge of finishing. Everyone, please work hard to overcome it. I can't take care of it. Please help me take care of everyone's mood in the company, and also help me find out what the new project is that Boss Wu is talking about. Why does the second team insist on taking over the new project that is obvious? Anzhi put down the spoon. She was very upset every time she encountered such laborious things. She no longer had any appetite. I heard that he is originally from abroad, who has just returned from abroad. He seems to know our company very well. He appointed the sales #1 in our company to be responsible for this project. Also, the boss, Sister Wen, said that we need to confirm the launch time and location, exhibition style, etc. with 0 degree tomorrow morning. Boss, please take the time to take a look. Su Yi is Anzhi's assistant, and the two have worked together tacitly for many years. Anzhi hung up the phone and sighed deeply, picked up the towel, and went to the bathroom to take a hot shower. Anzhi closed his eyes and felt the heat wave washing over his head. His frown was hard to relax. His dark hair stuck to his white skin along his collarbone to form a contrasting color that made his skin more delicate. The hot bath was indeed enough to relieve fatigue. Anzhi was also tired from standing. He dried his body and changed clothes before going to the study room. He opened the computer and opened emails one by one. He only had half a day of free time, so he had to pile them all together at night. It was better not to be lazy. Anzhi's busy figure did not crawl back to the bed in the bedroom until late at night to rest. Chapter 3, A Delicate Woman is a Little Crybaby. Wei Ren looked down at the document in the office seriously, turned to the last page, picked up an extremely childish pink shell watercolor pen, and signed his name at the signature place. Sunlight shines into Wei Ren's office through the floor-to-ceiling windows. His office is composed of black, gray, and white, and is rigorous and orderly. There is a colorful painting hanging on the wall that is incompatible with the decoration of the room. The painting is of a girl. The girl's eyes are full of affection. She is lying on the table and looking at the side. Her long hair is simply braided with colorful hairbands. The blue school uniform on her body exudes student spirit. The whole room seems to have become a little warm because of this painting or this person. There was a knock on the door. "Come in." Wei Ren's voice was low and hoarse, probably because he hadn't spoken or drank water for a long time. The assistant outside the door heard the sound and came in. The sound of high heels on the floor was particularly clear. "Mr. Wei, the matter you asked me to investigate yesterday has been clarified." The little assistant is probably the only sober woman in the whole company. She has never thought anything wrong about her boss. She does things neatly and neatly, never procrastinates, and has no delusions about becoming the boss's wife one day. Over the years, he has clearly felt that the boss is the boss. There is a ray of white moonlight living in Ban's heart, and the girl in the painting can make people feel warm with a smile. Wei Ran will also unconsciously smile when she looks like that. As an assistant, she is undoubtedly very successful, which is why she can work by Wei Ran's side for so many years. When Wei Ran heard the news about her, she put down what she was doing and raised her head to listen carefully. The owner of Building 801, Building 22, Chunglu Garden, is named Anzhi. The house in 802 was bought last month, and the owner is preparing to renovate it. If the boss needs to buy this house, I will contact the owner. The above is the condition of the house. In fact, she found out more. She just explained the key points to the boss. Miss Anzhi is single now. She has no frivolous relationship. She has a good relationship with the opposite sex. She is famous in the industry as a hardworking escort. She is highly rated in the industry, but... The assistant raised her eyebrows. He glanced at the boss's face and continued. There is a rumor in the industry that Miss Anzhi has improper means of getting to the position and appears in the gynecology department of the hospital from time to time. She has a few suitors for the time being, including Miss Ye's Dr. Jiang Xingchen, but the two have always maintained a relationship of friends. Anything else, keep talking. Wei Ran is usually very calm, but now this calmness is the norm in the eyes of the assistant. Ms. Anzhi is currently responsible for many projects in the company, and her business level is also very good. She has been responsible for the business of Zero Degree and Gray Studio recently, and will not take a break in the short term. These are Ms. Anzhi's specific information. If Mr. Wei needs other information, I can investigate again. The assistant's job is to be extremely detailed, and the more comprehensive the information the boss wants, the better. Go and buy that house. I will give you the decoration style tomorrow. Ask someone to decorate it when there is no one in 801. Don't disturb her rest. I want to move in a month at the latest. Wei Ran looked at the information handed over by the assistant and flipped through the monthly admissions. Why is it not written on it what disease she went to the hospital for? I'm sorry, boss. Miss Anzhi went to the hospital mainly to get medicine and injections. In fact, Jiang Xingchen was responsible for her illness. Yesterday afternoon, Jiang Xingchen and Miss Nan Chong went to Miss Anzhi's house. After almost an hour, Jiang Xingchen came out alone. The assistant continued to explain the situation. Okay, get out. Wei Ran lowered his head and continued to look at the information without looking up. Anzhi won a 10-year contract with Jiangye Group. Anzhi became the youngest project manager of a well-known domestic art studio. Anzhi is suspected of having a shady relationship with the company's chairman Wu Linxuan. Anzhi. Looking at these words on the paper, Wei Ran just felt so good. Now that he sees this name so many times, it feels like he has gone back to the past. From elementary school to high school, Anzhi wrote the names in every notebook and textbook one by one. Wei Ran, your handwriting is so beautiful. From now on, I will ask you to write my name in every notebook I write. Anzhi, a first-year primary school student, said to Wei Ran in a coquettish voice. Of course, Wei Ran refused without thinking. No. The little Anzhi held Wei Ran's sleeve and refused to let go until Wei Ran impatiently shook off Anzhi's hand and continued to lower his head and draw the trees outside the window. Anzhi lowered his head, curled his lips, and burst into tears. In the end, Wei Ran compromised and wrote the 3 words Anzhi lamely on every textbook and notebook. However, after he finished writing, he started crying again, thinking that her name he wrote was ugly. Wei Ran was so angry that he turned his head and ignored her, but the rise and fall of his chest undoubtedly showed that he was very angry with the girl. Later, every time Anzhi felt depressed, he would always pull the boy's sleeves and burst into tears. Wei ran because she seemed to understand what a woman made of water was. She had been outstanding in appearance since she was a child, and her facial features were so exquisite that every detail was perfect. Wei Ran never denied that she had been beautiful since she was a child, but it always made him upset. memories emerged, and Wei Ren suddenly smiled. The sunlight outside the floor-to-ceiling window shone on the man. The man raised the corners of his mouth tenderly, and at this moment, he looked like a gentle boy. For so long, Anzhi had been around him for more than 10 years, and had occupied his heart for more than 10 years after he left. It wasn't that he was affectionate enough, but that little crybaby was enough to make him unforgettable.